Sam O'Reilly with Fight Talk podcast in association with Round Date. Although we haven't seen James for a little while, so it's in association with him, but we don't know what the fuck's happened to him. Myself and Kevin tonight. No Craig. He's up in Glasgow celebrating his best mate's wedding, gallivanting around Glasgow with his fucking legs out and his kilt on. So no sign of that mush. Just me and Kev tonight. Although I did forget, I'm not gonna lie. Kev phoned me and was like, "Mate, what's happening to the podcast?" I'm not the most organised, but yeah, we're here now. That's all that matters. What's happening, Kev? How are we, mate?
Yeah, I'm really good, mate. Really good. Thanks for the call today.
Thanks for reminding me.
I'm well prepared for this now, so I'm sorry for anyone who gets a bit disappointed.
Oh dear. Last night, obviously, it's going to be the main talking point. We'll have a couple of discussion on a couple of other things as well, but yeah, last night Chris Eubank Jr. defended his IBO world title against Arthur Abraham. What was your initial thoughts on the fight? Was it, as you know, obviously I was there. I sat there, and it was pretty convincing, pretty easy, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I think it was perfect for Chris Eubank at this stage.
Yeah,
I know he's a world champion, but
is he?
You know, is he really? I still look at Chris Eubank as just under the world champions. And fighting someone like Arthur Abraham, who's coming to the end, who was a great fighter 5 years ago. Coming to the end of his career, I think it was a great name. It's a great name to have on your record, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the truth of it.
It's true.
It's a fantastic name. Beating Arthur Abraham convincingly on points. Nobody's ever knocked him out. Well, he hasn't, very rarely. He's a tough guy. And to dominate him is good. It's a great thing to have on your record. What did you think?
I agree. I think it was excellent matchmaking by Proxon. You look at Arthur Abraham, respected, been around world level for, was it 15, 18, I can't remember exactly, but he's had a shitload of world title fights, let's put it that way. And he's been in with some of the best, and he's tough as old boots. So there was a stage where, Eubank, I guess he thought he might be able to get him out of there on the sheer volume of punches, but for as convincing as he looked, I gave him every round. I was sat behind Colin Hart, obviously one of the most famous boxing men, boxing journalists, and he gave 3 to Abraham. He gave him the 3rd.
Yeah, I probably had it similar to that, to be fair. I probably had him 2 or 3. But yeah, it was very, very convincing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think if it was 5 years ago, obviously Chris Eubank would have been about 10. But I think if it was the Arthur Abraham of 5 years ago, I think it would have been a different story. I still think it would have finished the same way. I still think he would have won on points, but I think it would have been a lot closer. Carl Froch didn't look as convincing against him as Eubank did. Even though Carl Froch beat him comfortably.
Time, innit? Father Time's caught up with him.
I think, I texted you halfway through it, didn't I? Jesus, he looks like an old man all of a sudden. Mm-hmm. And you agreed straight away. So, he did look like an old man, but, Chris Eubank, I have always said it, and I've said it on a few other podcasts, he's potentially amazing.
How long can we talk about his potential, though? What is he, 27, 26 fights in now? I mean, 25 fights maybe.
It's a bit like Wayne Rooney, isn't it? You're talking about potential all the time. But yeah, I don't know. I think, for me, he punches massively, and he's got so much power, but he just doesn't punch.
I disagree. I don't know about his power. I mean...
See, I disagree. I think, and me and Craig touched on it last time, I think his power is amazing. I just think he doesn't throw punches.
Yeah, I remember you saying he was balanced.
He's always off balance when he throws punches, and I think that's his problem. He never stands there, plants his feet, and actually throws a punch. And I think that's the issue. And against someone like Arthur Abraham, who, as you said earlier, is as tough as old boots, you're never going to knock him out if you're off balance. Doesn't matter how hard you punch.
His best bet for getting him out of there was the sheer volume. At times he would throw a 6, 7, 8 punch combo, and he looks flashy. And I tweeted in the middle of the fight, like, say what you want about him, but I find him entertaining. He does the sort of the shoulder shrug and the arrogant little steps around the ring. Listen, boxing's a business as well. It's an entertainment business. I mean, it's
Listen, you're not going to find a boxer probably in the world that has as much confidence as him, and arrogance as him.
I wonder where he gets that from. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it ain't from Nigel Benn, is it? So, but yeah, listen, but he is. I think he's that good, and I love it. I love his boxing ability. If he can, what he needs is a real trainer. And we've touched on this as well. If he had a real trainer that was, in boxing for years and actually listened to a trainer, which we know he's never going to do. But if he had that and they could teach him to plant his feet, I think he would dominate the world. I really do. But I think that's what's going to hold him back. I think he will be a world champion. I think he will. He is a world champion, but I think he will get a better belt, and I think he will, do well. I'm just thinking when he comes up against that, that Golovkin or somebody of that sort of strength and ability, I think he'll be found wanting. He did against Billy Joe Saunders, didn't he? And Billy Joe Saunders again isn't one of the top, is he?
I think a gifted boxer like Billy Joe is. Say what you want about Billy Joe, he's technically brilliant. I think outside the ring, it's a different story. How he handles himself or his inactivity, whatever. He's actually got a press conference tomorrow in London to announce his next defence of the WBO title. So, it's I don't know with Eubank, mate. I sat there and there was sometimes in the fight I was sitting there and I was smiling from ear to ear at things he was doing because you don't see guys do that. There was one stage, he obviously the crowd was very, very pro Eubank, as you'd expect. He had Jordan and Dizzy Rascal in the front row, mate. It was a star-studded affair. But yeah, it was one point in the fight, Abraham hit him with a shot. It wasn't a big shot. And the crowd sort of went, ooh. And he turned to the crowd in the middle of the fight and shrugged his shoulders. Like, what are you talking about? He didn't fucking hit me. And then proceeded to throw a 10-punch combo.
I watched it on telly and I saw it and I just thought, arrogant git.
Yeah, he's an arrogant.
When you're that good, I suppose you can be, can't you? And that's the thing. But listen, I like Chris Eubank. I just think he doesn't help himself. In the way he is. I don't know if you caught it, but on telly yesterday, obviously when they were in the corner, his dad was in the corner just saying, keep hitting him to the head, keep hitting him to the body. That's what he was doing. That's the only instruction he had. And then, the other trainer, Ronnie Davis, was literally putting some Vaseline on his face, and he looked at him, gave him a dirty look, and said, don't fucking do that. And I thought, Jesus Christ, this guy's been with your dad for like 50 years or whatever it is. Yeah. Have a bit of respect, But they're the things I don't like about him. But boxing ability, I think if he can, again, he is, I keep saying he's young and potential, but he's not, is he? I think he's 27, 28 now,
mate,
isn't he?
He's only 2 years younger than George Groves. And George Groves, George Groves, his fourth world title fight, 2 months ago. So
he just needs to. I think he just needs to show a bit of respect. I think in the right areas, and I think if he, as I say, if he did have the right trainer, I don't know what happened with him and Adam Booth, but I think that was perfect for him because Adam Booth would have taught him what to do at the right times, how to plant his feet and stuff like that. But it didn't work out because of his ego, I suppose.
Adam Booth is a disciplinarian.
Yeah.
And that is never going to work for an ego like someone like him. Like obviously his head trainer, I think on paper is Ronnie Davis, but he's basically the Vaseline, the cut guy, and the towel boy because it's all
carries his belt in and
it's all about senior.
His t-shirt in, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's all about Chris Eubank Senior, and he's the one. He's in the ring when he's doing his sparring and in his camps and stuff. There's a lot of footage that has gone round. Even Chris Congo, who I know you said it was not shown on the broadcast, was it?
Yeah. No, it wasn't. No.
Now he's 3 weight classes underneath Chris Eubank Jr. and he was sparring in his gym a fortnight ago. And there's footage come out where Chris Eubank Senior was in the ring with him sparring, but Chris Congo danced around him, mate. It was a couple of minute clip, but Chris Congo's superb. It was a shame he ended up fighting at midnight after the main event in a 4-rounder. And he'd been gloved up since 5:30, 4:45 or something.
That must be so
difficult.
Frustrating for you as a boxer. It really must be. I know. It was a decent card, but you know, to be gloved up and to be wrapped up from that sort of time, and then you get in at you get into the ring at 12:15. You know, the show on telly is on till 1 o'clock, and they're sitting there talking, and you're in the background. It's pretty horrendous, isn't it? You know, they still had enough time to show that and have a 15-20 minute talk. You know,
that's what baffled me.
I'd be gutted, mate. I'd be gutted.
That's what baffled me. As soon as obviously Eubank had done his post-fight and stuff, that was it. The cameras were coming down, everyone fucked off, and you just had us in the arena. I stayed because I know Chris and he's a lovely lad and he's a great boxer. But you know, it probably wasn't his best performance. But mate, imagine sitting around for 6 hours gloved up.
You can't put on a performance, can you? Especially when everyone's leaving as well. It just deflates the arse out of you, doesn't it?
It was crazy.
That's the truth. You know, it just, you must just walk out there and go, bloody hell, can I go home? You know, and that's not the right mindset of a guy who's going in there to take someone's head off, is it? If
you looked at the 5 main pay-per-view cards, right, fights on the main card, right? I'm looking at it now. They were always going to go long. Do you know what I mean? Eubank and Abraham, Selby and Barros, Kid Galahad, Martin J. Ward and Robbie Davis Jr. They're all smaller weights. None of them sort of knockouts, but they were always going to go long. So there was 4 undercard fights. Get them all out before, and then you can have the main event as the final fight of the night, and then close the show down. Don't let one guy sit there and wait for 6 hours, gloved up, warming down, warming up, warming down. That's horrendous, man. That's fucking horrific.
During that time, though, he probably got called 3 times, I reckon.
He probably nodded off as well.
You're on next. Oh, no, you're not. Sorry, mate. Wait a minute. You're on next. Oh, no, you're not. Do you know what I mean? It's a nightmare for him. It really is. But I suppose when you're building, any sort of coverage is good coverage. But you know, Chris is, as you say, he's a friend of yours. You talk highly of him as well. You know, people like me that don't go to as many shows as you hardly know anything about him. But he's a phenomenal boxer, as you say. You know, and it's a shame. It really is. You know, we'll probably just start knowing about Chris Congo when he's 20-0. You know.
Yeah.
And that's the truth of it when he'll get on telly, and it's sad because he's got the potential like other big name boxers that are on telly after one fight, you know, and it's a shame. It is a shame.
Listen, he's going to get his time, I have no doubt. He's a former Great Britain representative, he was in the squad, and listen, look, the gym he's at, Miguel's gym, and also he was on the first boxing card at Olympia, and he was the middle of the card. I'm not sure if he was televised, obviously I was there, so I don't know. If he was but he blew his man out of there and looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just it was never going to be. He also had a difficult opponent, William Warburton. William Warburton? Yeah, that's the boy, innit?
Yep.
150 pro fights and tough as old boots, and it just frustrated me. I just sat there and thought, you know, I think Congo deserved better, but at the same time, like you say, it's exposure in it. He was spoke about with the event. His name's on the program and stuff. So, you know, fair play to him anyway. He got the victory.
No, good luck to him in the future as well, man.
Yeah, he'll be there. He'll be back on telly, no doubt.
Yep.
Lee Selby, Jonathan Barros. I remember you text me in the middle of this fight, mate. What was the exact wording? I think you just said Selby's a genius.
Do you know what? You know me, and I love a Welsh fighter at the best of times. You know me. I love Nathan Cleverly. Even like Enzo to some extent. I remember me and you arguing about Enzo and David Hay back in the day, you know, and that went pear-shaped for me. But no, I think Lee Selby, you know, what is it they call him? The White Mayweather, is it?
Welsh Mayweather.
The Welsh Mayweather, the White Mayweather, whatever it is. He's just, for me, he's an absolute genius. You know, the one frustration I have is his knockout power. But punches, variation of punches, his footwork, his movement, it's just beautiful to watch. It's absolute. And this guy who he fought, Barros, he was no slouch, mate. He was a good boxer, you know, and Selby just dominated him, didn't he?
Yeah.
Dominated him like he was an amateur having his first fight.
Bearing in mind, Lee Selby's mum died earlier in the week.
Yeah, 4 days, wasn't it? 4 days before, and he still put out a performance like that. You know, all credit to the man, definitely.
Fantastic.
All credit to him.
He's unreal. And, you know, Carl Frampton was sat ringside. I would love to see that fight. He's fighting in a fortnight's time. But I'd love to see Frampton and Selby look like... There doesn't seem to be any bad blood. I even saw Frampton sort of give him a little embrace on the way out. That may have been to do, you know, with his mum and stuff, but I just think it's a great fight. You know,
But they're also two nice guys, aren't they?
Yeah.
You know, Lee Selby, he's a top bloke. You know, as good as he is, he's not arrogant outside as much as or in interviews, stuff like that. He's obviously quite a forward person in the ring because he's so confident in his ability. And the same with Frampton. Frampton, I would say, has the punch power, but is nowhere near as good a boxer. If that fight happens, I think Frampton would stop him early, or Lee Selby would win comfortably on points. I can't see anything else.
I don't know about Frampton being a big enough puncher. I just think it would be stylistically, it'd be amazing to see, you know, what tactics they came in with, because I don't know if Selby would be able to be as elusive against Carl Frampton, who's just, at times, he's like a fucking ball. He just keeps coming, doesn't he?
Yeah, he is, but then, you know, you look at Mayweather-Hatton, and I would say that's a similar sort of fight. You know, if you were going to put comparisons,
yeah,
you know, I would look at Frampton coming forward, chin tucked in, arms going, and we all know what happened there, didn't we? So, you know, I think Lee Selby beats Frampton, but I'm not sure. I don't think he would knock him out, but I think he beats him with just his skill and his footwork. Frampton against Santa Cruz, number 2, he looks flat-footed. If he comes in with that Frampton against Selby will batter him.
I don't know if he was flat-footed. I think Santa Cruz had a massive height and reach advantage, and I think he just put it right what Carl had done in the first fight. You know,
yeah.
I don't know. Who listen? Time will tell. But Frampton's a good bloke. I think he can win a world title again.
100%. He'll win a world title, just not Lee Selby's. I did say I was a big fan, mate. So.
Another featherweight on the bill was Kid Galahad. Do you know what? I don't know if it's because of he sort of floated about for a little bit, and didn't he have a ban as well? But I'm still not sold on him, and he looked all right last night. He looked good. Like, I can't, you know, he was constantly throwing. He looked good. What was your thoughts on the Kid Galahad fight?
He's just a little Kell Brook, isn't he?
Kell Brook was in his corner, you know.
I know. He just reminds me of a miniature Kell Brook. I think again, he's got good boxing ability. I think he's got good range of punches. I'm not a bit like you, Sam. I'm not sold on him. I've seen a lot of him as well. He seems to have been all over the place on Sky, on ITV. I think he's even been on Box Nation at one time. He seems to just float around, as you said. But every time I see him, I think he looks good, but I don't think he's a world beater. But listen, time will tell. As I say, time will tell.
I said, I think it might have been Martin, actually. I sat with a guy called Martin that you still don't know. He's New Age Boxing. He does the podcast. Fantastic podcast. And a lovely bloke as well. I sat with him all night. And he said maybe Galahad and Quigg, measuring stick. It's not a bad shout, you know.
Yeah, I think it's a good fight for Galahad if he can win it. If he loses it, I don't know where he goes from there. So it's a risk on their part. I don't know what Quigg's doing, if I'm honest with you. He's just floating about doing nothing, really, isn't he? So I think Quigg would like that fight to push his name up, but I can't see that fight happening because there's nothing there for Quigg. You know, Quigg is a bigger name than Galahad, isn't he? So at this stage,
yeah.
So I look at it, what's he got to offer besides ruining his career? I think it'd be a risk for Quigg, but I think on what I've seen, I think Quigg would beat him. But I think it'd be a tough fight.
Yeah, I think it's a decent fight. I mean, I just don't. The truth is, I sit there and watch some of these smaller weight guys, and if they're not classy like Selby, or if they're not, big punchers for the weight, I'm kind of sitting there looking. Well, what fight's next? And it sounds horrible. But it's true.
Yeah, it's the time you want to get up and go for a beer, isn't it?
Yeah, or when I'm working, I go for a piss and then just sit and get. And what I do is come back and get selfies with Jorge Linares.
Oh, mate, you said that to me yesterday.
Did he? So beautiful.
He is a top bloke, isn't he?
Mate,
he really is.
He's
a lovely, lovely bloke.
I tweeted out after his last time he beat Crawler, he's got amazing footwork, beautiful punch variety, face of a model and the body of a Greek god, and I stand by all of it.
Jesus, Craig's rubbing off on you, isn't he? You're starting to fall in love with geezers. What's happening, bro?
Mate, Jorge Linares is a beautiful man, and he's got the best dress sense I've ever seen. He had these shoes on, mate. Like, it must have been $2,000 worth, probably pointed. You know, you can only get away with them if you look like Jorge Linares. Anyone else will just look like a bellend. So.
100%. No, he's got a good dress sense, definitely, man.
Yeah. Martin J. Ward defended his British, won it outright, and is now also the Commonwealth super featherweight champ. What did you think of that fight? I hadn't seen a lot of how'd you say his name? Kakache?
Kakache, yeah. Do you know what? I didn't even know who he was. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought it was some Mexican coming out, or some, something like Argentinian, and then he come out and he was just a normal bloke. Are
you saying Argentinians aren't normal blokes? I don't understand.
No, of course they are, but you know what I mean? He looks like he was from the council estate round the corner.
Yeah, I think he's Northern Irish, isn't he?
Yeah, he's Northern Irish, but I was watching it on telly, and obviously you didn't get to see it, but Frampton come on, and he was like, "Oh, this guy Anthony, he is the hardest puncher I've ever been in the ring with," and all this, and I'm thinking, cool, this is going to be a cracker, and then he sort of didn't throw any punches, and I I think he was all right. I think Martin J. Ward just done what he usually does, and just got through it.
Listen, it was close though. The judges gave it close, man. You say Kakache didn't throw any punches, but he put it on him, and he won enough rounds to get it close.
He did put it on him towards middle to end. Admittedly, I think the first few rounds, I think Martin just powered through, but listen, it was a close fight. It was a close fight, but I think it was more Martin took his foot off the gas rather than carried on. And I think he changed, he was boxing at range at the beginning, and then he sort of went inside and stuff, which was much better for Anthony. But listen, close fight, good fight. Obviously I was expecting fireworks from what Frampton said, but didn't really see any. So it was a bit of an anticlimax for me.
Yeah, it was a decent fight. It wasn't spectacular. It was close enough. I'm not a massive fan of either. I didn't know enough about Kakache, but Martin J. Ward, I've seen him box live about 4 or 5 times now, and listen, he's won the British title outright, so I can't sit here and slag the geezer.
No, not at all. Listen, fair play to him. He's not the outstanding boxer that you're going to talk about for years, but listen, he gets the job done, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
That's the thing. He gets in there, he gets a W on his record, and that's it. And I'm sure he'll win more belts, mate. I'm sure he will. Because he's just a bit of a workhorse, isn't he? That, as I say, gets the job done at the end of the day, and that's what you want, isn't it? So
yeah, that's it. The other fight, the last fight we're going to talk about on that card was Robbie Davis Jr. and was it Michael Sirowatka, the Polish boy?
Sirowatka, I think it was.
Yeah, that's the geezer.
Mate, apologies for the pronunciation.
I think that was my favourite fight.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. We were texting through that fight, which was quite entertaining, and obviously you've talked quite a bit about Robbie Davis Jr. and obviously I was really keen and really interested. I saw him on the last Eubank one as well. Looked good.
Well, he was on 2 weeks earlier to that, back on the ITV4 bill, wasn't he, against Zabo that had fought O'Hara. So he was on ITV.
But, he looked good. He looked very, very good. Early on in the fight, he looked like he was dominating. One thing they said on the coverage was he changed his tactics halfway through the fight. He sort of tried to get closer and stuff like that, which he didn't need to do. And I think that's what the guy was holding him a lot and catching him when he was coming in, which at the beginning he didn't start like that. So I think he felt more confident, and obviously that was a massive downfall for him at the end. So, but I think he was on all judges. I think he was 3 rounds up with 2 and 4 rounds up with the other. So he didn't need to do that really, and getting knocked out in the last round is absolutely devastating, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I sat there and I was what I said was, this Sirowatka, he's a better counter puncher than most people of that level, so he needed Robbie to let loose. So when Robbie was giving him 1s and 2s at a bit of distance, he was boxing this Sirowatka's head off. He looked better, but it just didn't happen enough. because he let the geezer grapple him and he was holding him a bit. And then when he started unleashing and letting bigger shots, then Nasira Watka just got through the guard and he just landed enough. And with a round or two to go, I thought Robbie Davies Jr. was going. I thought he wobbled and looked fucked. And there was 2 or 3 occasions where he got hurt in the last 10 seconds of the round. And the geezer's face,
I agree.
He turned around to his corner and was like, fuck. Like, you could see he almost had him. And then the 12th, he just...
Do you think that was a massive stamina issue?
I don't know.
He hasn't done too many 12-rounders, has he?
No.
And that's always an issue, isn't it? You know, if you've never gone 12 rounds or never, consistently done that, but I reckon from the 10th onwards, or even the middle of the 9th, he looked shot. And listen, he got caught with a massive left hook. He did. But I didn't, and I've watched it about 3 or 4 times since the actual punch. And I think if that happened in the 1st or 2nd round, or even up to the 5th, 6th round, I reckon he'd have got up and been alright with it. I think it was exhaustion. I think he was tired. I think there was a lot going into it. He needed oxygen after and stuff like that. That's not from a concussive knockout punch where he hasn't had oxygen for a minute or so. It was literally because I think he was exhausted and couldn't breathe. But listen, he lost the fight. Fair play to the guy. He done the right thing in the 12th round, and he knew his trainers said to him, "You need to knock him out," and he did. Fair play to him.
Yep, can't ask no fairer than that. He had the nous to put it on him and get him out of there. So you can't really ask for more than that when you see a geezer either slowing down of exhaustion or you've hurt him, and he put it on him. It reminds me a bit of the way Bully only got Hosea Burton out of there.
Yeah.
So listen, fair play to the geezer. What I want to touch on, you said to me afterwards, George Groves had been mugged off a little bit by Eubank in the post fight.
Yeah, mate, it was awful. It was awful. And do you know what the worst thing was about that? It wasn't the mug off itself. George Groves was about to go and have a pop at him back, and they turned the camera away. That was the biggest mug off. George Groves is there as a guest, on the show, and Chris Eubank has just abused him, literally abused him, and he didn't get to come back at him. George, Eubank said something along the lines of, he pointed at George right in his face, and he went, George, you're easy work for me. And I was like, oh, Jesus. He goes, as long as you win your fight, I'm beating you, and I'm taking your belt. And as he said that, they moved the camera away from George, because you can see George, and George is a ginge. There's no hiding him when he gets angry, because he goes red. Listen, I love George. I'm wearing a red George Groves t-shirt today, mate. I love George, and I do. Always have done. When him and DeGale were against each other, mate, we had banter and everything, and we're both massive George Groves fans. And absolutely loved the guy, but I felt so sorry for him, because you could tell his ears, like his steam coming out of his ears. He was about to throw back, and then that would have been awesome for telly. To watch them two going at it just before they go into the Super Series would have been awesome. But for some reason they literally mugged him off and pulled the camera off him. So
it's a fight. It's a fight that might happen now in the World Super Series of boxing. I don't know how it works. All the guys have picked their opponents.
So basically, George Groves picked the rankings for everybody because he was the number 1 fighter.
No.
So, yeah, he did.
No, that ain't how it worked. He picked his opponent.
Mate, he said it yesterday on telly. He said, "I picked you as number 3, so I got you in the semi-finals if you won."
Really?
He said that. George Groves said it live on telly yesterday. Watch it back, bro.
I ain't paying fucking 16 quid for a replay, you cunt.
Alright, well listen, I'll record it on my phone and send it to you. He said that. I picked you as number 3 because I wanted you in the semi-final if you beat the guy you chose. He said that.
Alright.
So, I, as far as I can read into that, and he said it as plain as that, so as far as I can read, George Groves actually picked the numbers after him. So, but yeah, he's gonna get him in the semi-final if they both win their first one, which they probably should do. Scares me, that fight.
What, Groves and Cox?
No, Groves and Eubank.
Oh, so you think Groves beats Cox, no drama?
Yeah, I think he wins that. I don't know the other guy that Eubank's fighting, but
Turkish fella,
they said Eubank's dad picked him because he was exactly like Arthur Abraham.
Yeah.
So that he doesn't have to change his training going into that. So they picked the most similar to him, just a come forward fighter, good defence, etc. And yeah, I'm worried. I would love George Groves to knock him out, and George Groves definitely got the power to do that.
Yes.
But what worries me is how quick Eubank is. I'm not sure George Groves could handle that volume of punches coming at him.
Yeah, but they're not. What you've got to think is, like Abraham sat back on the ropes. He was boxing 15-20 seconds per round.
Yeah, 100%.
If we're being honest, you know what I mean. Even when he was throwing, it was in tiny short shot, 3 shots, and then he was. So Groves won't let that happen, and Groves is physically strong and a big man. So,
yeah, no, I agree with you. I agree.
Me personally,
I just think George Groves that fought Carl Froch in the first fight, I'm confident would destroy Eubank because his head movement and the movement he had to make Carl Froch miss was phenomenal. We even said it together. We were like, gee, I remember Carl Froch had him on the ropes. He threw about 20 punches, and George Groves just moved out every single one, and it was awesome to watch. It was beautiful. But we haven't necessarily seen that same George Groves since that fight.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think though. When he beat Chudanov in May, I think he looked superb, mate.
No, he did, mate. Awesome, absolutely awesome. Power was there, movement was there, but I haven't seen that defensive George Groves since that fight. And he's going to need to be that George Groves and better, I think, with Chris Eubank.
No,
he's got it in his locker. He's got it in his locker, and if he trains the right way, he's got it, so he can do that. But yeah, Eubank's just his speed and the amount of punches he throws. I would love George Groves to beat him because, yeah, I'm not, as I say, I'm a fan of him as a boxer, but not necessarily as a man. Where with George, yeah, I've got a crush on George. I'm not going to lie, love him to pieces. If we're going there, mate, you love Linares. George Groves is my man. So, yeah, what do you think on that?
Do you know what? You think of Chudanov's last fight, stylistically couldn't be much more different than Chris Eubank.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Do you know what I mean? Chudanov's very straight lines. The head never really moved off centre, and whereas Eubank is constantly moving. He's got the upper body movement. I guess it's going to be difficult, providing they both get through, which they should do. There shouldn't be a problem. It's a great fight. I don't know. I try not to look at things biased, but I'm a Groves fan. So I try and look more how Groves wins the fight rather than how Eubank can beat him. But I sit there in all honesty and think the thing that wins Eubank fights is when the guys don't throw back, a la Quinlan and Abraham, and his volume of punches and his flashy movement. But if you've got George Groves snipering that jab into your fucking face, because he's got one of the best jabs in the game, constantly snipering that jab and then following up with a big straight right behind it, because George's his 1-2 is superb. He's going to keep the range. He's going to keep the distance. How's Eubank going to get inside that range without getting caught? That's the question.
Listen, he struggled, didn't he, against Billy Joe Saunders, who was doing the same sort of thing.
Exactly.
Lots of jabs, then moving off, throwing lots of jabs, moving off. Billy Joe Saunders didn't necessarily throw his big punch, hardly any. But that's where George Groves and his jab, as you said, is the best in the business. George Groves' jab could, because he's always off balance, it could be awesome.
Yeah.
That could be how he wins it. Just jabs him for 12 rounds. That's it, because he's always off balance. He's always awkward. And George Groves' jab is very, very to the point. When he throws it, it hits you. It very rarely misses. So that could be the way he wins a fight, mate. Definitely, just keep him off balance. He does come in weird angles, Eubank. So by him being off balance, it could be the way to win the fight, definitely. But just the speed worries me. It does. It worries me as a Groves fan.
Yeah. What we still don't know is how the television and promoters and stuff are going to work with this World Super Series of Boxing. You look, George Groves, Jamie Cox, kind of simple now. I'd imagine it'll be on a Matchroom show. You know what I mean? I don't...
Yeah.
Then you got Callum Smith. He's a matchroom fighter. He's fighting Eric Skoglund, and I don't know who his promoter is, but I don't imagine they can match Eddie for money, so that would probably go on Sky 2, right? But as you look towards the semis, let's imagine George Groves and Chris Eubank Jr. happens. They could probably put that on ITV pay-per-view, I guess, because the Sauerlands over here don't have their own platform, so they kind of go where the money is, don't they?
Well, listen, who knows? It could just be a bidding war for the TV stations each fight. You know, and every fight goes on pay-per-view. I don't know how they're going to do it, but you know, or they could both have it on, and you pick what one you want to watch.
No, that ain't going to happen.
You know, I don't know, mate. I don't know how it'll work. What would be better is if the Super Series went right. Every channel bid for us, and obviously the highest bid gets to show them on whatever they want.
What, per fight you mean, or as a package?
As a package. Yeah. You know, I'm going to be honest with you, Sam. I'm going to watch every single one of them.
What, in both weights?
Even if the George Groves, the super middleweights, I'm going to watch every single fight.
Yeah, but I think the cruiserweights is more exciting.
No, definitely. Bigger punches, more knockouts, more. Yeah, definitely. But
and
I'm going to watch every single one of them as well.
You got 4 belts in that in the cruiserweight.
I'm going to watch every single one of them as well. You know, as boxing fans, we're going to watch every boxing event they put on telly, aren't we? Yeah. Or if you get to go to them, then you're lucky, aren't you? But for me, I'm going to watch every fight from everyone. So
regardless of where it is.
Regardless, you know, even if it's 2 Polish guys fighting, I'm going to watch it to see how good they are. Then when they fight George Groves next, or when they fight, you know, I'm that kind of boxing fan, as you know. So I'm going to watch every single one. So regardless, so for me, if let's say they put it out there and Sky Sports won them, I'm happy days. Or Box Nation, or ITV, whatever it is, I don't care because I'm going to watch them all anyway. So it doesn't matter to me.
It's a good show. It would be quite a good idea for one broadcaster to win the rights to show the entire lot. It
makes sense. It's a bit like a World Cup, isn't it? They throw it out there and they say, right, Sky bid, ITV bid, what BBC bid, and we'll crack on with a winner. It makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah. Might be on Dave.
You never know, mate. Or Spike TV.
Yeah. Comedy Central.
You never know.
Mayweather McGregor, Comedy Central.
Then again, yeah, that's definitely Comedy Central. Then again, it could be Channel 5, mate.
Yeah, Cyclone have been doing bits last week.
You never know, do you?
Josh Taylor and O'Hara. Who knows?
Well, it makes sense, rather than it's scattered around on all different channels, because they're promoted by this person, it makes sense just to go, right, you know, you will put your bids in and we'll go from there.
Yeah. Do you know my only query of what... Obviously, on paper, I don't think you can argue with the fighters that are in it and, you know, the belts, the unified... For example, the cruiserweight, you could become a fucking... Not only just a unified, you could practically be undisputed cruiserweight champion if you win it. Because there's that many belts. So it's superb. But I have a question, which is unanswerable right now because we don't know. What if 2 weeks before the first or the fourth fight, someone gets injured and it's a 6-month injury? I know they have reserves, right? But
yeah.
So they have reserves. Do we know who the reserves are yet?
No, I haven't heard about them, no.
So there's reserves. But what if it ends up being, it's not bad enough to be taken out of the tournament, but the fight can't happen for 3 months?
They wouldn't do that, mate. It's a set schedule now.
Is it?
Once they get pulled out of the hat, or they choose whoever they're fighting, it's a set schedule.
So what if George Groves gets injured and his belt is then no longer available in this whole tournament?
Yeah, his belt's no longer available in that competition. That's it.
Then it would be pretty shit, super middles.
Then you know, you'd probably not watch it. You'd record it and then watch it at your convenient time, wouldn't you?
I think I'm right in saying the WBC have also said they're going to make a belt for it because Darrell and someone are going to fight for the WBC, but they're going to make a WBC diamond belt at the end of it.
Diamond belt.
Have you heard of this?
Ain't there enough belts out there? Jesus.
Well, we've slagged the WBA for having a regular and a super, and now the WBC are just calling it a different fucking name.
Oh, mate, it's pathetic, isn't it? It really is, you know. It's one champion, one organisation. Let's just stop all the rubbish, guys, you know. But yeah, WBC diamond belt. It's just throw the real belt in there, mate, and the winner takes it.
Because they've had
no one's got it at the moment, have they?
I don't believe so.
So if no one's got it, just throw it in, and the winner gets it at the last fight. They're all up for grabs. That makes more sense rather than creating another WWE, battle. It's just stupid. It don't make sense to me.
Yeah. Let's move on a bit. I just mentioned Dave, which brings us to David Haye. I can't go a podcast without talking about David Haye.
Oh God, here we go.
Let's talk about Haymaker Ringstar. First of all, his first 4 signings, Joe Joyce, which is an exciting signing.
Yep.
30 years old now, been a very, very well established amateur. There's going to be I'd imagine there'll be no feeder fights. They wanted Dave Allen for his debut, so I don't think he's going to be knocking over, Cornish, the guy that Dubois beat. I don't think we'll see any of those fights from Joe Joyce. So he should move pretty quickly. Good fights there. Michael Venom Page, mate. Michael Venom Page. Do you know who Michael Venom Page is as a boxing fan?
I ain't got a clue.
He's a 12-0 mixed martial artist, right? One of the most...
Oh, yeah, no, I did see him. Sorry, mate. Yeah, he's a black guy, isn't he? I watched him. He was on... I did watch him on a TV show, actually. He's a mixed martial arts guy who's coming into box. I think he was talking on the Conor McGregor-Mayweather situation.
Yeah, he was on Sky.
He was at the press conference there. He seems like a really nice guy, actually. He's they seem to be stepping over, don't they? I know Conor McGregor's. If Conor McGregor does win, he's gonna probably open it up, isn't he? But
Did you just say if Conor McGregor wins? Did you just say if Conor McGregor wins?
What are you dead against that, or?
I want 10, 20 seconds tops on that fucking fight because I'd rather watch EastEnders. It's basically the same, isn't it? Conor McGregor, love him to bits in his sport. Floyd Mayweather is the best in the world at his sport. I'm not asking Phil the Power Taylor to go and play javelin just because they throw something pointy. It's not the same. Leave it alone. That's it. It should never be happening, but there's a lot of people that are jumping on the fucking bandwagon because they're casual. Floyd Mayweather schools him, no doubt, and that's it. Michael Venom...
We'll have a wager off here, mate.
You're not.
As long as you give me the bookies odds of 6-1, I'll happily put a wager in it.
Yeah. Michael Venom Page, I've got a big issue with. As a mixed martial artist, I've been watching him for six years, I think, since he's turned pro. He has one of the most amazing knockouts you will ever see in his pro debut. It was a 540 tornado kick, yeah? He's also one of the best ever kickboxers in his discipline. I think it was scored... I can't remember. It's called score kickboxing. I don't know the exact rules. I'm quite ignorant to it, I'll be honest. But he was one of the best ever at it. Multiple-time world champion. He's a year older than Conor McGregor. He's never made it to the big leagues of mixed martial arts, which we all know is the UFC. Yes, he's 12-0. No, he's never had a test and never fought anyone of note. And now we're going to say he's good enough to change over to boxing? What's happening in the fucking world?
Well, you've just said he knocks people out with kicks.
With kicks, because he's the best kickboxer I've ever seen.
He can't do that in a boxing ring, can he?
He's knocked people out with his hands, don't get me wrong, but they come off fear of the kicks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
I don't know, mate. I don't know. I just think, you choose a sport when you're younger to make your own and crack on with it and earn your money and retire.
All it is he wasn't moving in the correct direction. He still says he's going to jump between the two, which means if there's big fights in MMA, a la Paul Semtex Daily, which could still realistically happen, he'll take it. But there's some money being offered to fight on, boxing on Haymaker Ringstar. So there you go, that's where he's going. But I don't know, he won't, in my opinion, won't be anything more than ever fighting for a Southern Area title. But we'll see what happens. He's a very big man in mixed martial arts. I think he's 6'2", 6'3", but he's going to be a super middleweight over here, so he's still going to be big. But can you imagine he ever went up against someone like a George Groves who's been boxing from the age of 8 or 9? Come on, mate. Come on.
Yeah, it's gonna again. I've only seen him on a talk show, mate. So I don't know too much about him, so I can't make that judgment really. But if you say he's main knockouts are kicks, then he's gonna struggle in the boxing ring.
Yep. What else was I going to talk about? There's one more thing we were going to talk about.
The show. The show we were at last time.
Oh yeah. We can touch on last weekend's boxing that we were at. Obviously, I was at the Saturday and the Sunday. You came along to the Sunday. Anyone who hasn't seen it, Wadi Camacho and Arfan Iqbal, which was for the English cruiserweight title. Sum that fight up for us, Kev.
It was. It's a tough one to even sum up, really, because I think Iqbal was fighting his first time at that weight. He got straight into it. It was an English title, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Obviously, Wadi Camacho is pretty seasoned, but has got his level, I think, and I think everyone would agree with that he's got a level that he's good at, and he just blew him away, didn't he? He landed massive punches every round, and then literally just wore him down and absolutely put him to sleep on the ropes. Yeah,
if the ropes weren't there, I'm pretty sure he would have hit the deck, because he was rocking his head all over the place. Today,
his head looked like done a 360 at one stage.
Yeah, it was brutal, mate. It was absolutely brutal. Yeah. And that, Arfan since then he's come out on Twitter. He's started a Twitter so that he can get the big fights. He told me, and he's been very vocal. He wanted Isaac Chamberlain. Then Lawrence Okoli actually tweeted him, said, "I'll take the fight. I'll fight him for the English." Arfan Iqbal said, "Yep, I'll take that fight. Let's do it." And Eddie Hearn said, no. Lawrence Okoli would fight for the world title tomorrow if we let him. We need to manage him, so maybe down the line. So Arfan will fight anyone at any time, like no doubt about it. But Eddie wants to manage.
I think he's got that about him, hasn't he? He's quite an aggressive. He's not a big guy, is he? I stood next to him at one stage, and I thought, Jesus, he's quite a stocky lad, but he's not the tallest guy or the biggest guy in the world. And but Jesus, does he have some power? Wow. He doesn't look like a naturally amazing, gifted boxer either. He hasn't got quick feet. He's got quite quick hands, admittedly. But Jesus, when he lands on you, you're going to sleep. Definitely. And I was a bit, there was rumour that he knocked Tyson Fury down twice in sparring and stuff like that. I don't know how true that is, but it's come from quite a good source. What?
I want to know who your source is.
Well, I said quite a good source. I don't want to give him too much of a big head. But yeah, it's that came from a good source. So, he's obviously a banger, isn't he? But my worry with him is he was quite fleshy. In that he needs to obviously put a bit more muscle on, I think. Even though he is a stocky lad. But he could be one. He could be one to damage, Isaac Chamberlain or the Eddie Hearns.
At least
Eddie Hearns boys. Oh yeah, he'll definitely test them, mate. He'll land on their chin, 100%. And that and obviously in their stages of their careers, Eddie doesn't want it.
Yeah.
You can't blame him, mate. He's put a lot of money into these lads, so he probably wants to keep them covered for a little bit longer. But I think if Iqbal keeps knocking people out, then it's only time, isn't it? That's what he's got to do. I think he's not that. He wasn't that active, was he? So I think if he can come out and start, heading towards the British title, then their paths are going to cross, aren't they? Definitely.
Yeah, Matty Askin is the champion. He's the British champ, I think. Matty Askin.
And he said straight away, I'd have him tomorrow, didn't he? So, he would take that fight tomorrow, and I think if he can maybe have another fight and then fight Matty Askins and win that, I think he's definitely up there for the big paydays, isn't he? Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got some serious support though, isn't he, Sam? I don't know how many people he had there, but there was a few hundred at least, come down from Derby.
That's it. They came mob-handed, mate. They came.
They were very intimidating as well, and I'm not a small fella, but Jesus, some of them were twice the size of me.
I just feel happy that Arfan likes me, boy, because...
and I'm happy that I know
you. He's got some fucking boys around him. They are units,
Jesus.
And
yeah.
They will not be shut down. They will not be shut up. They will do very much as they please. So, yeah, I think that'd be amazing if he got a big television fight. I think it would be fireworks, mate. I think it'd be a great thing. And like you said, keep knocking people over. It will happen.
100%.
100%. I'm going to touch on something now that, you know, you weren't at the show the night before, but I've told you all about the boy. Second fight of the night. So the story is, if no one's read it, we watched the first fight. This was on Goodwin's Saturday. I think it was called Full Throttle. Our friend Ramez Mahmood, he had I think it's his third fight. Got the victory, looked good. Was just about to go out and give him his post-fight interview, because the next guy, you know, I hadn't heard of either guy in the next fight. One of the kids was called Anesu Bad News Twala. Now, I'd never heard of him, no reason. So I was just about to go off, and then his music started, and he came down with his camouflage balaclava, swaggering in like a motherfucker. And I thought, I like this kid. Me and Craig perked up. Our interest was piqued. So we thought, let's watch this kid. And then he started boxing, and we straight away fanboyed all over him. It was like, mate, he reminds us so much in his style, like a James Toney style, and he looks like him. He just literally, we watch a lot of debuts, and that was phenomenal. That was without a doubt the best pro debut I've seen at Small Hall. Obviously, I'm not an idiot. Do you know what I mean? There's no Josh Kelly. I'm not stupid, but at that level, for a pro debut, it was fantastic. So the fight ends, and Craig's like, I'm interviewing that boy. I'm fucking interviewing him. He runs down everywhere, gets his post fight with him, and gets a fraction of his story. And then, you know, it transpires we now know a lot about him. And he has no sponsors. He wore trunks that were shop bought, I think, from Sports World. Unbelievable, mate. Not one person backing him. He sold the bare amount of tickets that you have to even be able to fight. And we just said, you know what, this is someone we're going to get on with and help. So we're now with James at Round 8. Myself, Craig and James are looking after him. We're going to do sponsoring him. We're going to be doing his PR. And since then we've put out, you know, a lot of, you know, highlights of his fight and stuff, which have had 60,000 interactions, and people all over the world know about him because his highlights for his pro debut were so impressive. He's back in there on the 9th of September on a really, really good Goodwin card. Leon McKenzie's fighting for the southern area. Joel McIntyre is defending his English. I think there's one more been added as well, and I can't remember what, but there's some really, really good fights. So I'm trying to get as many people to get out and watch this boy so they can know that Bad News is the real deal. You're coming along, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm coming along, definitely. I like your call. I like the Goodwin shows. What I liked about the Goodwin shows was there's no, you know, I've been to a few of the bigger promoters, and one fight happens, you got 3 hours to sit there and wait, and, you know, you're bored, and they got a bit of music on, and there's a lot of drunk people around you jumping around acting stupid. But what I liked about Steve Goodwin's shows was literally one after another. As soon as the guy's being carried out the ring, there's someone else running into it. It was awesome. I've never been to an event like that, and I've been to loads of events all over, you know, Birmingham, Manchester, you know, Wembley Arena, Wembley Stadium. Been to York Hall loads of times, but it was just bloody, and, you know, I was glued to it. You know, I was there for 7 hours. I had 3 beers. You know, and usually if I'm there 7 hours, I'm having about 17 beers.
Yeah.
But I had 3 beers the whole time. It was just brilliant. You just didn't want to miss any of it.
As a boxing fan, you know, that's what you're there for, isn't it?
100%. 100% loved it, absolutely loved it. But yeah, if obviously if September the 9th is like that, mate, I'm going to be going to a lot more Goodwin shows, definitely.
Yeah, mate, that's what it's about. Value for money wise, me personally, I don't think, you know, last night, I don't know what a ticket would have, what a seat would have cost you. I don't know if in the venue, 40 quid maybe. The same at a Goodwin show, you get 14 fights, you just might see the next big thing, you know what I mean? There's a lot of prospects being made in the Small Hall now. And you see a lot more 50-50s. How many 50-50s do you see really on the big shows nowadays? Last night, most of them...
Probably the main event and maybe one other, isn't it, usually?
Yeah, you know...
If you're lucky, you get 2 or 3, but, yeah.
You had,
Goodwins, there was at least 4 or 5, weren't there? And you know, the other fights were okay as well, so...
Yeah, you'll always get a lot of young fighters that are in there learning fights against guys that have lost a hell of a lot. But... that's part of the learning game, isn't it? That happened last night, Chris Congo on you know, William Warburton fight. So that's always going to be there. But I just feel you get so many more 50-50s. Southern area, English title level. That's where it's at, mate. And Goodwin are doing that better than any other small hall promoter in this country, no doubt.
Yep.
Definitely. Anything else to add before we sum it up? I mean, next one we do, we'll have been to MTK Brentwood. That's next Saturday. You're coming to as well. You're starting to come to a lot of shows now, Kev.
Oh, listen, when you get a few fans, you got to let them see the face, ain't you? Do you know what I mean? So, no, listen, as you know, mate, I've always been into boxing. The big shows, I'm going to be honest, I prefer to watch on Sky or on telly. But the small hall ones, I love them. I absolutely love them. I think they're so intimate, aren't they? You get a decent punch happens, you get covered in sweat or blood. It's just where you want to be, innit? So.
Yeah, I got covered in blood last week. Dwayne Sinclair chinned his Mitch Mitchell and fucking blood all up my arm. Beautiful it was. So
Nothing better, is there?
Well, yeah, and I did regret sitting that close straight after. I was like, shit. But no, it's definitely intimate, and you can't get better than that, mate. The feeling that the boxers afterwards, they're straight out meeting people, shaking their hands, and that these are just normal men that go in and put their lives on the line every day when they go in that ring, and that's the truth of it. So next Saturday, even Dave Allen's coming down to fight in Brentwood. Lerone Sniper, the Boss Richards, mate. That guy is talented.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing him, actually. Him and Dave Allen. I'm looking forward to seeing them too, definitely.
My good friend ID Hill, I don't think you've seen him fight live. He's fighting on the card.
Okay.
Taylin Jones, Johnny Coyle, John Wayne Hibbert's back. Tyler Goodjohn. Mate, Lee Eaton has done a fucking fantastic job for this fight, for this show.
Yep.
This is a superb card. Some good names on it, and yeah, I think it'll be a great night of boxing. So anyone who's Brentwood or Essex, get down there next Saturday night, mate.
I look forward to it, mate. I look forward to seeing you there, definitely.
Yeah, mate. This has been the Fight Talk podcast. Thanks for listening.